Welcome to Le Podcast de Philippe, where we like to take a deep dive into a stack of articles you sent us and kind of pull out the important stuff. Today, we're going to look at a potential security vulnerability in ChatGPT that I think you guys are going to find pretty interesting. Yeah, we've got a couple articles here that talk about how ChatGPT's web crawler thing, ChatGPT-User, could be used to launch DDoS attacks. And we're going to get into how that works and what it all means for AI security and all that.
It is interesting, I think, that this flaw that we're going to talk about isn't just like a technical whoopsie.
Yeah.
Like it kind of gets at something bigger, right? Like AI safety in general and the unintended consequences that can come from powerful technology.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And this is not just a theoretical thing either. One of the articles you sent actually talks about this guy, Ed Coates. I think he's the creator of the game UI database. And his site got hit hard by this ChatGPT user thing.
Yeah, and Coates' experience really shows you how this vulnerability can have like real world, ouch consequences. He actually reported losing money because ChatGPT-User was, slurping up so much data so aggressively that it basically shut down his website. And it's like a reminder that even if nobody's trying to be malicious, these vulnerabilities can still really hurt.
Yeah, so let's break this down a little bit. Like, how does this vulnerability actually work? What is ChatGPT user, and how can someone use it to launch these attacks?
Okay, so you can think of ChatGPT-User as like a digital librarian, right? It's always out there scanning and indexing the web, trying to help ChatGPT, understand stuff and answer questions. The problem is that an attacker can kind of mess with this process. They can send a list of website URLs to ChatGPT's API and basically tell ChatGPT-User, go check out all these sites right now. And that floods the target site with traffic, causing a DDoS attack.
So it's like sending a swarm of robots to one store and blocking the entrance for all the regular customers.
Exactly. And what's even more scary is how big and easy these attacks can be. A single API call could trigger thousands of requests. So it's like a force multiplier. And to make things worse, you don't need any special access or anything to do this. It's like leaving the keys to a really powerful tool just sitting out in the open.
Yikes. Now, you mentioned that this whole thing is like a symptom of a bigger problem with AI security. What are some of the other ways that vulnerabilities like this could be used, like beyond just DDoS attacks?
Well, this specific vulnerability, it could be used for way more than just messing up websites. Like, think about it. You could use it to steal sensitive data or like manipulate information online. It basically opens the door for some really nasty attacks, especially if you combine it with other AI tools.
Yeah, that's not a good thought. Like, it's basically giving bad guys instructions on how to turn AI into a weapon.
That's exactly why this case is so important. It's like a wake-up call. It's
Yeah.
making us think about the bigger security problems with AI and how urgently we need safeguards to prevent people from abusing it.
This brings us to something else that was in the articles, which is kind of worrying. They talk about how OpenAI hasn't really responded to the researchers who found this vulnerability. What do you make of that?
Their silence is definitely not a good sign. It makes you wonder about how committed they are to security and if they're even capable of handling the risks that come with their own technology. You need transparency and accountability, especially when you're dealing with AI systems as powerful as ChatGPT.
It feels like we're standing at the edge of like this new era. We can see the power of AI and what it could do, but we're not really keeping up with the safety measures and ethics and all that.
You're totally right. And that's why it's so important to have these conversations. We need to look at the potential consequences and work towards responsible AI development before these vulnerabilities get exploited on a massive scale.
So we were just talking about OpenAI not really saying anything about this vulnerability. What do you think AI developers like OpenAI should be doing to deal with these security concerns and stop people from misusing their technology?
I think it's really important for developers to make security like a top priority right from the start. Like they need to do a ton of testing and try to figure out how people might attack their systems and build things that can handle those attacks. And they need to be more open too. Let researchers and other people look at their work and talk about potential problems.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's like building a house, right?
Yeah.
You wouldn't just focus on making it look pretty. You'd want to make sure the foundation is solid and the walls can handle a hurricane.
Exactly. And just as important as the technical stuff are the ethical things. Developers need to think about how their creations could affect society and try to prevent any bias or harm.
One thing the articles talked about was how AI developers and website owners need to work together more. How would that help prevent something like this ChatGPT thing from happening again?
Communication is key. The AI people need to explain to website owners how their systems work and what the risks are, and the website owners need to understand how to protect their sites from these AI threats. They can come up with like best practices and security rules together.
So it's kind of like a two-way street, where both sides have to see things from the other's point of view and work together to find solutions. One of the articles even suggested that we need stricter rules about how AI systems can interact with the internet. What do you think about that?
Regulations are tricky. I mean, it's good to have some safeguards, but if the rules are too strict, it could slow down innovation. It's all about finding the right balance between letting AI develop and protecting people from harm.
So it's not a simple yes or no kind of thing. We have to think carefully about what could happen if we do something or if we don't do anything. This whole situation feels like a wake-up call. Like we need to deal with these problems now before they get even worse.
I agree. This whole ChatGPT-User thing, even though it's scary, it's also a chance for us to have these important conversations about AI safety ethics and responsible development. We need to use this opportunity to create a future where AI can help society without putting our security or well-being at risk.
Okay, so we've been talking about this security problem with ChatGPT and what it tells us about the bigger picture of AI. Now that we're wrapping up this deep dive, any final thoughts on how we can handle this whole AI thing as it keeps getting more complicated?
Well, I think this whole situation shows us that we need to look at AI security from a lot of different angles. It's not just about finding technical solutions. It's about creating like a whole culture of responsibility and collaboration and just being open to talking about these issues.
Earlier, you mentioned how important it is for AI developers to be more transparent. How do we make that happen in a field where so much happens behind closed doors?
I think we need to push for rules and standards that force developers to be more open about their AI systems. They should have to explain how they work, what data they use, what the risks are, and stuff like that. Having independent people check their work could also help make sure they're being honest and accountable.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like it's like having building inspectors, right? You want someone to make sure that the buildings we're making, in this case, AI systems, are safe and follow the rules. We can't just take their word for it that everything's okay behind the scenes.
Exactly. And remember, transparency isn't just about stopping bad guys. It's about building trust with regular people, too. If people don't understand how AI works, they're going to be less likely to trust it, even if it could help them.
So education's a big part of this too, right?
Hmm.
The more we all understand about AI, the better we'll be able to talk about these things and make good decisions about how it's developed and used.
Totally agree. We need to teach people about AI ethics and safety in school, make resources available to everyone, and encourage open discussions about how AI is going to impact our lives.
So it's about giving people the tools to understand and engage with this technology, not just leaving it to a few experts.
Exactly. The future of AI shouldn't be decided by a handful of companies or developers. This is a conversation that everyone needs to be a part of. Politicians, researchers, everyday people.
This deep dive into ChatGPT's security flaw has been pretty fascinating and, yeah, a little bit scary at times. As we wrap up, what's the one thing you want our listeners to take away from this?
AI is incredibly powerful, and it has the potential to make our lives so much better. But with that power comes a responsibility to use it wisely. We have to approach AI development carefully, put security and ethics first, and work together to shape its future. The choices we make today are going to determine what kind of world we live in tomorrow, a world that's shaped by AI. Thanks for listening.